The date is March 24th, 2015, and flight number 9525 Germanwings is flying an Airbus A320, and it's flying from Barcelona to Dusseldorf, Germany. This is when the control tower realizes that the pilot has turned down the elevation of the plane from 38,000 feet to 100 feet. In the control tower, they were very shocked because they had never seen such a thing go from 38,000 to 100 feet real quick, because that's the minimum it could go. Of course, after seeing this, the control tower contacts the pilot to get a message through and see what is going on, but nobody seems to answer. The airplane continues to descend and nobody is answering the tower. There was 150 passengers inside the aircraft, and that worried them even more. This is when they call the French military, and they immediately send the Mirage fighter jet to see what is happening. But the Mirage never reaches its destination because the Germanwings flight 9525 had already crashed in the southeastern part of France, where it's very mountainous, and all 150 passengers were immediately killed. We first have to say Germanwings was part of the Lufthansa group, which is no longer around, but during the time of this accident, they were very well and alive. From start to finish, it was extremely sketchy what had happened in this accident. Or was it really an accident? Since it happened in France and it was a German plane and it started from Spain, different countries started to investigate on what happened. After doing a lot of research and reading the black box, this is the conclusion they came up with. 8 in the morning, when this Airbus A320 was getting ready, everything was going well and it was just getting fueled up and inspected. Everything gets approved, and the main captain of the plane is this man, Patrick Sondenheimer, a very experienced pilot that has more than 6,000 hours in flight time. But his first officer or co-pilot was not so experienced. He was only 28 years old and 650 hours of experience. A man named Andreas Lubitz. Eventually, 9 a.m. sharp, they lift off from Barcelona. After 27 minutes, the airplane has reached 38,000 feet. At this moment, it's only an hour and a half until Dusseldorf, and this is when the main pilot tells Lubitz to check what Dusseldorf's weather is like so we can get ready for the landing. But Andreas Lubitz gives a very odd response to this question. He says hopefully we'll see, which is very weird in this situation, but Sondenheimer wasn't really paying attention, it seems like, because he didn't even think about it. After this, Sondenheimer tells Lubitz that he's gonna take a quick bathroom break, and I put the airplane on autopilot. As soon as Sondenheimer leaves the cabin, Lubitz locks the doors and turns the knob from 38,000 feet all the way down to 100. This is exactly when the control tower realizes that this is happening, and they try to alert on what is happening. But unfortunately, the only person inside the cabin is Lubitz, and the only person that could hear the warning coming from the tower is Lubitz himself. You have to know, when the cabin door is locked, you cannot do anything to enter it. You can't even use a machine gun to open it. And at this moment, the only people that know that this airplane is going down is Lubitz himself and the control tower. The control tower even has reported that they could hear Lubitz breathing into the microphone, but he's not speaking. Sondenheimer's bathroom break doesn't even take a minute. He quickly gets back to the cabin, but he realizes that the door is locked. He gets confused in the beginning and keeps on knocking, but there's no answer. And after a while, he begins to freak out. He thought something had happened to Lubitz. The airplane continues to descend, and the people haven't realized it yet. Sondenheimer is extremely worried. He takes a glance out the window and he realizes that they're getting very close to the ground, and he comes to the conclusion that he's trying to crash the plane. He freaks out even harder. Inside the safety compartments of the aircraft, there are these types of acts. He tells one of the flight attendants to go grab it, so maybe he can get the door open. But unfortunately, there's no way to open the door. You can't even do it with a machine gun, let alone this axe. 11 minutes after Lubitz locking the door, meaning 9:41 a.m., the A320 hits the side of the mountain, and 150 people, kids included, get killed because of Lubitz. When this A320 hit the mountain, it was going 700 kilometers an hour, so there was pretty much nothing left. It was all debris, and the biggest pieces were smaller than a car. Since the accident took place, they immediately told the rescue team of France, and they went there with a few helicopters. But before they even got there, they saw the debris and realized there's no one there to save. They very quickly also realized that this plane was hit on the side of the mountain on purpose, because there's no try in fixing it, changing direction, or pulling up. But they weren't the one that could decide that. So the investigation started by all types of countries, especially Spain, Germany, England, and the United States. After investigating for months, they reported that Lubitz hit this aircraft on the side of the mountain on purpose. But why is that? The number one responsibility for any pilot is the safety of the passengers. How can you kill everybody on board on purpose? Who was Andreas Lubitz? In the year 1987, he was born in Bavaria, and he was a very normal kid that loved aircrafts. When they asked his loved ones and friends, they would say he was a good kid. The only problem was that he would never stop talking about airplanes, but I didn't see anything wrong with him. Lubitz was only 20 years old when he entered Lufthansa's flight school, which is very young for someone to do this. Usually, they're much older than 20. And eventually, in the year 2013, Lubitz was only 26 years old and he got hired as a co-pilot for Germanwings. And this is another thing you rarely see, a 26-year-old co-pilot. But Lubitz worked hard and he showed that he was able to do it. Until now, Lubitz is a very normal human, but why would he do such a thing in only 1 year? It was all going well until they searched his apartment. They very quickly realized that Lubitz was keeping a secret from everybody, an extremely dark secret. He had all types of mental illnesses and anxiety disorders, things that they wouldn't even allow you to drive a taxi, let alone an aircraft with more than 150 passengers. When they look at his medical records, they see that he went to the doctor constantly, but he would go to private doctors that wouldn't report his illnesses to anyone. If he would go to a normal doctor, every type of diagnosis or sickness that he was diagnosed, they would have to report it to his employer, which was Lufthansa, and that meant losing his job. And he didn't want that, so he would exclusively work with doctors that wouldn't do this. They realized that Lubitz thought he's losing his vision. Even though the doctors would say you have no trouble with your vision, it's just your thoughts. We have to fix your mental illness, not your eyes. But Lubitz would not listen. He was prescribed a whole lot of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, but he would still have these thoughts. And of course, if you have these types of medications, you're not supposed to be anywhere near an aircraft cabin, but he was. And Lufthansa has no idea this is happening. A 20-year-old man that's very physically capable, he's talented in the aircraft department, but his mind has paralyzed him. When they search his history, they realize that he constantly searched Google on how to unalive himself. Of course, Google does not give any response to such question. They just tell you to call this number if you need any help. You really can't call this depression, because no one depressed decides to kill 149 other people with himself. This is why different doctors would diagnose him as sadistic and psychosis, not just depression. Lufthansa didn't really help out the people that suffered because they were only given 75,000 euros each. The IATA also put rules aside that every single pilot has to go through a physical exam once a year and also a mental health check. They also put another rule, and that's there can never be only one person inside the cabin. So if one of the pilot or the co-pilot wants to go to the bathroom, a flight attendant has to come inside the cabin and wait. And this means one person can never be inside the cabin ever again.